I've been a Scientologist for 30 years. I got in 1969 when I was 19 years old. I was a very young person at the time looking for answers and truths and kind of answers for how to help people and why did people do the things that they did. So I read Dianetics, I loved it. I actually went immediately from Chicago to Los Angeles and trained and have been part of the church for 30 years. Basically in 1990, I got on OT7. And this is one of the main things that I want to let people know. I know there's a lot of people on OT7, and I know that the big party line is everyone's having a great time. But the truth is, the majority of people that I knew, I'm just going to talk about myself. I'll just leave it at that. Right. While I was on OT7, I got on OT7, and the day I got on OT7 was a terrible day. And I went, the very first day I went up to what's called cramming and said something's wrong. And literally for 7 years, I kept trying to work out what was wrong, that I wasn't getting it. Because everybody else was getting it. Everyone else seemed like they were having a great time on OT7. I wasn't. But that's what I later found out happens. It's like no one really tells you the truth. So anyway, long story short, Battlefield Earth came out. I got on the internet because years ago I helped train John Travolta and I felt bad about what was going on with him. I'm on the internet pounding away, kind of fighting all of the different people that are on the internet, the people that are against Scientology, right? And I'm like an OSA volunteer. I've worked in public relations for 10, 15 years with the OSA, helping them out and fighting people and stuff like that. So I'm on there in my dining room pounding away about this and that and Get Real 101 and yada yada. And basically I get mad. I'm a mother and I call up Warner Brothers and I say, that's it. You know, this isn't okay. These guys are on here. They're religious bigots, yada yada, you know, get down the board. And someone from Time Warner calls me up and says, you know what, you're right, we're taking down the board. And I'm like, woo! So now I think, okay, I'm going to take down ARS, Alt Religion Scientology, which is an internet site that has a lot of people on it that are against the church. And I think, I can handle it. I took down Warner Brothers, I'll take down ARS. So now I'm on there pounding away for like literally it starts out and I'm on it day, night, and weekend. I'm on it all the time. Magoo, all of you know me who have been there and watching Magoo. Anyway, I'm fighting. I'm being very nasty, very gnarly, typical OSA thing, you know, just batting back. It's like fish in a barrel, pounding people. And then all of a sudden, there's a man on the internet who has a website, and it's a huge website with a lot of data and information on it about the Church of Scientology. That's not good stuff. And I had seen it for years. And his name is Andreas, and his site is Clambake. And to me, he was sort of like the devil. If there was a devil, he was like the devil. And he came online while I was doing the Magoo thing and said, just help me with a few technical things. And I was amazed. It was like, here's this person that's the devil helping me. So finally I thought, I've got to write him and at least thank him, because everyone else was writing me what a moron I was, what an idiot I was. They were very much against me because they thought I was either David Miscavige or Int or something like that. But because I was doing this whole we and they thing, and I pretended I was a lie therapist. And anyway, it doesn't matter. I write to Andreas and I say, Andreas, thank you for helping me. And he writes back and he says, you're welcome. And I think, God, I was really ready for him to say something very, very bad. So I said, okay, I've got to find out, why does he have this horrible website on the internet? So I wrote him and I said, and now I'm writing to the devil. You have to really get the mindset of it for me. And I'm like, dear Andreas, you have to know that I think you're the devil, but I want to know, why do you have this horrible website about my church on the internet? And he says to me, and I'll never forget this, I really won't. He says, I believe in truth. I knew I was going to cry if I say this. He said, I believe in truth. I believe in looking at both sides, and I believe in having the courage to stand up and say what I believe. And I literally sat in my dining room, and this is to all the OT7s. I cried for about 2 hours because I realized I was so far from truth and so far from looking at both sides. And I had started out like that when I got in Scientology. That's what I was looking for, truth and both sides, and honesty, and everything, answers, right? And here I am at the top of the bridge, and I'm a chronic, compulsive liar all the time. How are you doing? Fine. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's the Truman Show all day, all night, going on. Completely, everywhere I went. How's OT7? How's OT7? Great, it's a great level. You better get on it. I never wanted to say anything because I didn't have any wins on it. I didn't like it. It was a very bad level for me. And if you watch the Barnes's video, you'll see why it was a bad why it was a bad level for me. But I didn't know why it was a bad level for me. I just knew I was getting worse and worse and worse as I stayed on it. Every 6 months, I was getting worse and worse. I gained 100 pounds. I was nearly dead. I could hardly feel anything in my body. I had very little energy in my body, just almost solidly dead. That's how I felt. Now, people in the church can say, well, why didn't you come in and tell us about that? Because it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. You can tell a certain amount of stuff to the church, but you can't really tell them what's really going on. You just can't. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? You can't really say, you can't say, you know, this isn't working, man. I'm not having a good time. Because you know what'll happen? Write out the check. You got a little more set checking to do, baby. That's the way it goes. Right? Truth. It's the truth I'm telling you guys here, and you know it. Okay, so Andrea says that to me. I sit in my dining room, and I am crying for 2 hours. I can't stop crying. I'm just weeping and weeping, thinking, here's this man that I thought was the devil, and he's been so kind to me, and he has since. Every single day, he's been so kind to me. Hi, Andreas. So anyway, and of course, Osa, this is really funny. So now I hit the wall, like in the Truman Show. I'm like, wow, this is a bunch of crap. The whole thing. It just, boom, the whole thing goes down. That's it. This isn't what I think it is. This isn't the Church of Scientology. This is a bunch of crap that I'm living right now. And so are my friends, so is everybody else. I'm pissed. I'm sitting here just like, well, how could this be? I've been in the church for 30 years, right? So, but I'm against the wall, and I go, okay. And I write to Andreas, and I say, because I have no one. When you're in the Church of Scientology, there's no one you can call. You can't call them up and go, you know, I'm really thinking about leaving the church. It doesn't work that way. You have nothing. You have no terminal. Now, they're going to say in the church, oh, you have terminals. You can come talk to us, right, and get locked up in a room and beat up or something. But you can't really go get handled, not really. So I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do? I'm in my dining room. I'm all by myself. I can't think of one solid person that I could call. Not one friend, not anybody that I could call and say, you know what, I am dying. I was an OSA Int volunteer. I met with the vice president of the Church of Scientology every Monday night. What were we meeting about? Our little group that we were starting to handle black PR. All these people in the media that were writing these things that were lies about the Church of Scientology. I'm fighting for this, man. We're going to put these people down, right? And I'm on the internet talking to Andreas, and now I go, Andreas, how am I going to do this? If I leave the Church of Scientology, that's it. I will have no friends, not one friend, none. Everyone I know is a Scientologist. My husband will probably leave me, which he has, or I have to leave what I'm doing, what I know, what I feel, and come back and be a good wife. But truthfully, I had nothing. And so I wrote that up to Andreas, and he wrote me back, and he said, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I have to ask you this, and it's a good question. How good could those friends be if they're going to leave you because you changed your mind? And again, I sat there and I went, oh my God, oh, it was such a shock for me to think of that and to realize he's right, and he's been totally right. Who called me? Has any one of my friends, one of my friends called me up? I'm not even declared. Go ahead, write my declare. I wait for it. But I haven't been declared yet. Do you think anybody, one person, 30-year friends has called me or helped me? One friend. I do have one friend, and I'm not saying who it is. But thank you very much to that friend, and you know exactly who you are, and to Andreas. And to all the people over here, this has been amazing. Okay, so I decide, you know what, that's it. I'm out of this place. I'm done. I just get it. I'm going, that's it. I'm done. I'm not doing this. It's a lie. It's a fraud. I've had it. I have enough courage. I grew up with parents that gave me a lot of courage. And my father said, if you know something to be true, you get your ass up there and tell somebody about it. Don't you ever sit down and just sit in a corner and let somebody make you feel bad like that. So I have all my life, and people who know me know that. I have a lot to say, and Osa, you know that too. And I told you. I've told you people for a long time, don't be out there being mean to these people. These OTs that are out here at Flag are unbelievable. I can't believe the disgrace that's going on here with these people that come from the Lisa McPherson Trust. Okay, maybe there's signs we don't agree with. Maybe so. Maybe they're not what you want. But to have 50 people that say they're OTs out there screaming their lungs out at them, looking like absolute morons. I can't believe it. That's not Scientology. It's not Scientology even a little bit.
You guys got nothing. Nothing.
Now where am I going to go? I start writing. Now I've got all my internet friends, right? I think, but they don't really like me because they think I'm Osa Int. So I'm trying to kind of bring this thing together without Osa Int finding out that I'm leaving, but I want to leave. And I'm like, well, does anybody want to meet at Denny's? And does anybody know where Von Young is? And does anybody know where Arnie Lara is? And does anybody know where anybody is? And nobody, they're like, Magoo, forget it. No, no, no. So finally I think, I've got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I got to find somebody. And so finally I wrote, and Stacy and I have a little joke on this, because when people go to leave the church, they're like this. It's like you can't really just pick up a phone and say, I want to leave the church. Can you help me? It doesn't work that way. So I kind of wrote her this little email like, do you remember when this happened? And do you remember how bad it was? And she wrote me back and she said, and I was asking her for Von Young's email. And she said, Von doesn't take any anonymous communications. Who are you? And I wrote her back and I said, I can't tell you. Because I really was scared for my life. I mean, and I really was. And I know people go, right, you're scared for your life. I was scared for my life. I was terrified. I was all by myself. I knew Osa was reading the internet. They knew I was Magoo. I was pretty sure they'd figured that out. Even though I wasn't like officially with them working on it at all. It was just my own little project, but I kind of thought they connected the dots. And so now I'm like, uh-oh, I got to get this thing happening fast. So I finally thought, I felt like I was on this cliff, and I know anybody who thinks about leaving, you feel this way. You're on this cliff. I felt like I was like at the top of this cliff. I could feel the breeze. I looked down. It's like 1,000 feet down, and there's a sandy beach with a sign that says, you might make it if you jump. And I had to jump. The only people I knew I was going to come see that I knew of were Stacy, Bob, and Jesse. Pretty much all of who were like devil number 3s for me. It was sort of like very bad people. And Bunker, of course, I knew, but I liked. But, it was sort of like, I didn't know anybody else out here. It was sort of like I knew I was going to lose all my friends. I'm probably going to lose my husband, all of my life, my church, everything, but I'm going. So I sat down, I wrote up the entire thing, who I am, what I am, where I've been. I'm mid-OT7 for 7 years. I'm a trained auditor. I've been in the church for 30 years. And she knew me. We were auditing together at AO years ago. And so she called me and we and she said, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't want to come out and do any videos for you guys, that's for sure. And she said, don't worry, that's no problem. She said, would you like to come out and just rest? Because I was just like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And I said, yeah. So, okay, we set it up. The next day I'm going to get on the plane, come out to Florida. I get to the airport. First of all, my van's canceled. My plane is canceled. I get to the airport. Who's there? The vice president of the Church of Scientology. What do you know? Janet Weiland. Hi, Janet. You really ought to listen to this and think about it. So she's there going, don't go see these people. They're bad people. Now, of course, in my mind, I was sort of thinking, they may be bad people, but I'm done with the Church of Scientology. I got to do something, and I got to go somewhere, and I want to find out what's on this other side that's so bad. Andreas wasn't bad, and I thought he was the devil. So long story short, the flight gets canceled. I call Stacy. She says, stay on the cell phone. We'll walk you to the plane. And it takes us about an hour. We get me on the plane. I get to Chicago. My husband is there with Osa. I say, forget it. I'm going across this bridge into a new universe. I'm crossing over. I get on the plane. Now it's 1:45 in the morning in Florida, and I think, okay, nobody's going to be here in Florida at 1:45 in the morning. Wrong. There's Stacy, Bob, and Jesse. the police and 5 OTs with Penny Jones jumping up and down. I'm your best friend for 30 years. Talk to me. The police say, we can't pick. She has to decide. So basically, I talked to Penny for a minute. My big upset is David Miscavige, who years ago, basically, I think started ruining the church. Everybody has their own opinion on it. My upset with it was because all of us that were on OT7 for as long as we were on it paid and we paid and we paid. We did all those 6-month checks. And then he comes out in front of thousands of people and says, oh, the Solonats auditors are only using 3 out of the 79 tools. And step right over here to the registrar for $25,000. You can pay and get right back on. I didn't think that was too good, Davey. And you know what? I wrote you a letter about it saying so. I said, hey, I buy a crummy car. I pay a lot of money for it. They'll be here the next day with a good car. I said, the least you can do is put all of us OT7s who have trudged up this bridge back onto OT7. I got a little form letter, thank you very much, but forget it, 25 G's, you can get back on. That was about it for me on that thing. So Penny says, I can get a message to David Miscavige. I said, you know what, I think we're over discussing this issue. And I went with Jesse and Stacy, and they've been very kind to me. They've let me stay there. They haven't asked me to do anything. It's been amazing to meet all of these critics who are fabulous. That's the other thing. Most of the Church of Scientology does not know. There is an army out there of people, and all they care about is freedom of speech. And they're not leaving until this whole thing gets settled out. They're not for the church. They're not ex-Scientologists. They don't want the bridge. They don't care about the bridge. They care about freedom of speech. And if anything, they're the ones that are going to put in the ethics on this group, because there's a large majority of them, more and more of them are joining every day, and I thank each and every one of them for holding that line for us, because it's been very hard for us to leave. I mean, it is a hard thing to leave a church like that, because you've been in it, you're in the Truman Show, you don't even see the wall. Then you finally see the wall, now what? Nobody else sees it. Any person I've called up, they don't see it. What are you doing, Tory? What could you possibly be doing? What could you be thinking? I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'm free for the first time in 30 years. I can think a thought. I don't have to worry about a sec check anymore. I don't care. I can do things that I want to do. I can go places I want to go. I can think things I want to do. I'm having a great time. I've met so many nice people over on this side. There's thousands of people that have left the church. The truth is, all the really neat people are over on this side. That's really fun. All these people that we forgot about, because that's one of the really bad things the church does too. They just kind of flush you out. You know, it's like, oh yeah, what happened to L. Ron Hubbard? He died. Well, okay, Davey Miscavige is back on. Forget about that old Hubbard guy. Well, you know what? That's kind of a ratty thing to do when you think about it. And I still, to this day, and I'll say it to each person that did have to leave, God, I'm sorry that we didn't all stand up for you, every single one of you. I mean, some of the people that had to leave that church when there was nothing. I mean, we have the internet now. We have a large group of people. We have all the critics who are helping out. There's a huge army over here now that's having a kick-ass time, I might say. But some of these guys really paved the way. They did. And I bless them, and I say, from the bottom of my heart, and I know for each of us who's left, thank you for what you did. And for the rest of you guys, get some balls. Come on, stand up for Christ's sake. Say what you feel. Come on out here. Come on over. We're having a good time. I'm telling you, it feels good to be able to think. That's the other thing that church does. You stop thinking. And you know what it starts with? Keeping Scientology working. That's the most amazing thing to me. It starts with that, because don't get off that path. God forbid you get off that path. You might think a thought. You might go somewhere else. You might get off the path of the bridge to total freedom. So think for yourself, look for yourself, have the courage to stand up and do it, and thank you. And call me anytime you want. I'm here. I'm having a good time. Anyway, take care. We will be in touch. Ciao.